Was there like ever a point in your life that you have like internalized as like a point where you're like, oh, this is bad, I should not do this thing again, you know, when you were young or something? Because like, you know, every parenting has like different like disciplining methods, and I will never ever forget my dad's disciplining method. Okay, I'm about to call you out, Dad, because I might take notes, and I might actually learn from you, because I remember, you know, there's a lot of disciplining methods people have talked about when they were kids, you know, especially in Asian countries. You know, you get a little slap, you know, little spanking, you know, maybe you get shouted out or something. My dad has never raised his voice to me. When I did something wrong as a kid, he never raised his voice to me at all. Instead, I remember this one time, I rarely have seen my dad angry. I can't even remember what I did wrong, right? But I did something wrong that's disappointed my dad a lot and made him angry. And I remember, instead of shouting at me, instead of like giving me a spanking or whatever, he would just lecture me and teach me and refuse to let me go anywhere aside from listen to him lecture me. And I swear to God, this lecture lasted around like 2 hours, 2-3 hours. And I remember I did this thing at like 11 p.m., right? I was tired. And he was like, no, you're not allowed to go to sleep. You need to listen to me lecture you, right?
I like it.
And he would just lecture in the calmest of voices, right? Not angry or anything. He would just lecture me, but just refuse to let me go anywhere until I had, you know, fully listened to him. And for some reason, like after that point, I was like, I am never angering Dad again. I would rather just get shouted at or fucking spanked for like 5 minutes and then it's done. My punishment is done. But now I know if I piss off Dad, I'm wasting 3 hours of my fucking life.
Yeah, you're listening to a one-man podcast for 2 hours.
Yeah, and I remember it was like there was a point where I realized I had shared trauma, right? Because I remember this one time in Thailand, my dad is like the eldest sibling of this family, right? And he has like a pretty big family. And I was hanging out with one of my uncles. And we were just talking. And I remember he was like one of the younger brothers of his family. So I remember talking about, you know, when I was young, my dad would discipline me by lecturing me for hours. And then I remember my uncle just shut up for like 2 minutes, and you could just see like a wave of memories coming back.
The PTSD.
Yeah, the PTSD just comes back, and he just like, yeah, he did the same to me as well.
That's such a power move.
That does sound miserable.
Yeah, it was miserable, but it fucking worked because
Yeah.
I knew afterwards that was the traumatic experience in my childhood. Not really traumatic, but that was like a core memory for me. Just to be like, okay, what I did was wrong. I'm not gonna do it again. I'm not gonna piss off Dad or anything like that. So good on you, Dad. Just I might take that. I might fucking take that.
I definitely feel like because my parents were kind of the same. It's like very rarely they would actually like shout.
Yeah.
Because like I feel for a kid, and I don't know if it's just me, but like for a kid, there is nothing more, I guess, traumatizing than not seeing an angry parent, but seeing a disappointed parent. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like an angry parent is like, it's like, okay, they're angry, they're scary, but it's usually for a short amount of time, right? Like you can't be angry for hours, right?
Yeah.
You can't be shouting for hours.
Yeah.
But you can be disappointed for days. You know? Sometimes weeks, depending on the parent. And like that shit just lingers, right?
Yeah.
Every hour that you're in the same house as them.
Yeah.
And I feel like as a kid, that shit just hits you so much harder than seeing your parents actually be like pissed off or like mad about something, right? So I feel it's like, that's a tactic my parents used. That shit worked on me as well. And I'm like, you know what? I might use that method.
You know, this scary part is the less they say. You know, if you tell them you've done something and they just say like 1 or 2 words and then go away, you're like, fuck.
I'm gonna just drop my kids off at the police station. Don't get traumatized. I'll pick you up tomorrow.
Just drop me off at the police station at this point, man.
Yeah, you just sit them down and you just like put in a number and you just show them. It's like, I'm about to call them.
Well, they had that American TV show, right, where they would send the kids to prison.
Oh yeah.
And They would get prisoners to intimidate them.
God, that shit is so.
They would just get prisoners to shout at them.
It's like so funny.
Like, I don't know. Is this really a good idea? I don't know. It feels like a trauma machine in action.
Like, what is the line between traumatic experience and learning experience? Right? You could argue that's a very, very thin line.
Some people rule their empires on fear.
My favorite thing about that show, though, is just like it clearly like people didn't. People clearly don't look at that show and look at like kind of the depth, I guess,
pillar
or like
of parenting.
Yeah, and don't look at it as like the pillar of parenting, because like there's just moments where they could be like 14-year-old kid is like Brandon, did drugs and stole an eraser from a stationery shop or whatever, right? And then there's huge fucking dude with like tats and neck tats and everything, just like shouting, being like, "You don't want to disappoint your mom, right?" And then it just cuts to be like, Jose killed 3 people, and I'm like,
And a fourth, this kid doesn't learn his lesson.
And I'm just like, you're gonna have to say that again. You really have to think about that.
I'm curious what the parents who are watching this think of the punishment that have happened.
Yeah, parents of trash taste. How do you lecture your parents? How do you parent?
Lecture your parent. Lecture your kids.
Let's have 3 dudes who don't have kids talk about parenting and how to do good parenting. That's always something.
Listen, I don't know how to do good parenting, but I know what not to do. I figured some stuff out. Yeah. And I know that I'm not taking my kid to police station.
Calling the cops on my 6-year-old.
I feel like their memory is just not going to be there. It's not. Do you remember anything from being 6 years old? I would if I was taken to the police station. I'd remember that.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't remember anything else.
I mean, I remember certain points very, very early on. Like I've told this story before, but I remember like the first time I lied, which was I believe I was like 5 or 6 years old, because I remember the feeling of
boy discovers lying.
Yeah, literally, it was that. Yeah, it was that. It was literally like
that invention of lying moment.
Yeah, it was literally I was like 5, 6 years old, and I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna do a pro gamer move.
I'm gonna do something devious.
I'm gonna do a devious move right now. What if I don't tell my mother the truth? And my mother, of course, immediately caught on to it. And I remember that because I was like, oh, my first attempt at lying was a failure.
Yeah, so it's like your mom's just like, you fucking noob.
Yeah. So by failing my first lie, it instilled in me for the longest time that every lie is a failure.
I'm bad at lying.
Yeah. Bro, being a kid, your lies fucking suck. Yeah. Like, why can we not just think through shit for like 2 seconds? Okay, I'm having a trash taste moment. I'm having one of those things where I can't remember if I've told this story or not.
Okay.
Right.
Where I lied to my mom about my hair when I cut it.
I don't think so.
You haven't.
All right, so, when you... This is so dumb. Why the fuck did I do this? So when you sleep, right? And you wake up and you have bed hair. But when your hair's short, right? Sometimes the bed hair is like persistent. Yeah. Like, no matter how much water you put on that bitch, it won't go down.
Yes.
Yeah.
It will just stay up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I had this, and I was like, this is annoying the shit out of me. I look dumb as fuck. I must have been like 8. And so I had this idea. I was like, it's not going down.
Yeah.
I got to just cut this shit.
Like, cut your bed hair?
So I had a piece of bed head that was like this, and it just wouldn't go down after you put a little water on it. It would stay up. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I took a pair of scissors, went in the mirror, and then
fucking idiot.
Yeah, I realized that was when I realized cutting hair, not the move.
No.
And then I realized I looked to the side, I was like, oh, there's just a patch missing. Because that's how hair works. And obviously my mum comes home and she looks at it, she's like, what the fuck happened? What did you do? And I was like, I closed the door on my hair and it ripped it out. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah. She was like, let's try it. So we go to the door. So we go to the door. We go to the door. It doesn't even fit in the frame. Like, you couldn't even if you by God had willed this, it couldn't happen based on how the door was like framed. It just wasn't possible. And she was like, "What actually?" I was like, "I cut it because it was sticking up and I couldn't get it down." She's like, "You're an idiot." Yeah. She just immediately marched me over to the barber's and was like, "Just cut it all off.
Cut it all. Yeah.
It looks fucking stupid. Fix it." So I remember it was super short then after because I fucked it up and I was a dumb idiot.
God.
Yeah, because like as a kid, I was like, man, parents are so good at telling when you're lying, and maybe I didn't realize I was just a fucking dumb kid.
No, I was bronze rank while they were like master rank. Dude. I was climbing still. Like, I didn't know how to lie yet.
Yeah, you try to go in for your ult and they just have a counter, right? It's just like, it's like this will get them, and it's like, oh, okay.
It's like that LA Noir moment where it's just like, look at the subtle facial features to tell if someone is lying.
Did you ever play your Game Boy late into the night and then they would try and come in your room? And be like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course, of
I
course.
just get really good at hiding it. Of
course.
My go-to was like I would put it in the pillow, but then obviously they learned. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck. You had to keep thinking of new ways where you could hide it.
I put it in
Yeah.
my pants.
Like, that's smart. They
See,
would
that's
check.
yeah.
They're like, stand up, boy. You're like, what is that? What is that square-shaped penis you have?
It's like, I just shit myself.
Joe, you're 5 years old. There's no way you're packing this badly, man. What the?
Packed like a USB. Did they ever like try and find it?
Oh yeah, of course.
See, they didn't initially, but then they weren't convinced that I wasn't sleeping.
Yeah.
And they were like, he's hiding it somewhere. And they would just make me do like a fucking search in the middle of the night. Like, stand up. We're going to check the bed, check under the mattress, check everything. I'm like, damn, they're good. Damn, she's good.
They figured this shit out.
Did you ever have like an experience of like going to like one kid's house whose parenting was obviously like very different and had like different
dude.
rules, and you just like your mind would be blown by the shit that they could get away with.
The kid who like just had everything.
Yeah.
The kid who just got all the stuff he wanted.
Yep.
That shit was like going to his house was like Disneyland.
Yeah.
Oh no,
It
if
was
we
like we get to play Crash Bandicoot and Spyro.
no, if we that kid in my life was like their parents. I guess their dad was just like super chill.
Yeah.
Right. Like especially compared. I mean, not to say my parents are like super strict or anything, but these parents are like a little bit too chill.
Yeah.
Right. To the point where this kid's gonna be like a problem child. Right. Because I remember first time I went sleepover. Right. Again. This is around the time where like I'm fucking, hiding from my parents with this Game Boy shit right in the middle of the night. And I remember like dad comes in, tucks us in, is like, yeah, you guys good? You got water and everything? And then I fucking remember this moment where he like, as he's closing the door, he turns around and he goes, don't play Game Boy for too long. And I'm just like, what? Your dad lets you play it? What?
Bro,
like any amount of time?
Bro, no, dude.
I'm like, that's not fair.